start off with the classes. So first thing I'm going to speak about is ferroptosis. Okay, this is given importance too much from last year because it is newly included in Robbins 10th edition. This is, I have just cropped up image about ferroptosis which is given in Robbins, but I will tell you in simple words how to remember ferroptosis, the exact concept behind ferroptosis. Okay, first thing you have to know, ferroptosis means it is iron from Greek. Okay, ferro means iron, optosis means falling off. So iron falling off. So it is a type of programmed cell death. Like apoptosis, it is also a programmed cell death. Okay, and the main thing you have to remember here is it is iron induced. It is iron induced. First point. Okay, so ferroptosis is iron induced programmed cell death. Okay, second point I want you to remember is, though it is programmed cell death, the morphology of the cell will appear like necrosis. This is similar to pyroptosis and necroptosis. Okay, so morphologically it will look like necrosis. Okay, but it is programmed cell death. Fine. Okay, and one more thing. Before getting into the concept proper, here we have to know what is so important about iron. We all know iron is involved in the Fenton's reaction, isn't it? So iron, when it is there in the cytoplasm of the cell, when it is there in that pool, this ferrous, it gets converted to ferric. Okay, it gets converted to ferric along with hydrogen peroxide. It gets converted to ferric and OH minus. This is a free radical. This is a reactive oxygen species or free radical, ROS. Okay, this is Fenton's reaction. So this ROS, this free radical has to be scavenged from the cell to prevent cell injury, isn't it? So this point we have to know. This is one point, let it be there. Another point we have to know that the cell has antioxidant mechanisms, isn't it? So one more point here we have to know, that is into the cell, there is something called cysteine. Cysteine is an amino acid, isn't it? So cysteine enters into the cell in exchange with glutamate. Okay, enters into the cell in exchange with glutamate. Okay, this cysteine, once it enters into the cell, it gets converted to cysteine. This is cysteine, this is cysteine, T-E-I-N-E. Okay, it gets converted to cysteine. Cysteine gets converted to cysteine. Okay, this cysteine, what will happen to the cysteine is, in the presence of gamma glutamyl cysteine synthetase, gamma glutamyl cysteine synthetase, it will synthesize glutamyl cysteine. Okay, then this glutamyl cysteine, on addition of glycine molecule, on addition of glycine, it will produce reduced GSH. Okay, reduced glutathione. Fine. This is very important as antioxidant. And this cysteine, no, if once it is formed, this will get converted to glutamine. This will go into circulation in exchange. Okay, so this is how the cysteine glutamine cycle is maintained. So here we have to understand that GSH is produced. Okay, but what is important in ferroptosis is, this Fenton's reaction is taking place in one place. Okay, this Fenton's reaction is taking place. Along with that, this GSH, I told, no, we have a molecule called GPX4, glutathione peroxidase 4. Okay, this GPX4 is the enzyme which is going to convert lipid peroxide to lipid alcohol. If this in the presence of GSH, so GSH acts as a cofactor here. See, in case this glutathione peroxide 4 is not going to convert lipid peroxide into lipid alcohol, this lipid peroxide will cause lipid peroxidation of the cell membranes. Okay, lipid peroxidation of the cell membranes, leading to damage. Okay, once the cell membrane, plasma membrane is damaged, that phosphatidyl flipping will happen and it will give a signal, eat me signal. Okay, that is how apoptosis will occur. So we understood that this is the master molecule of ferroptosis. Question, expected question. So which is the master molecule of ferroptosis? It is glutathione peroxidase 4. Fine. So, see, genetically also it can be defective. Otherwise also, when this Fenton's reaction is happening in excess in the body, so excess of free radical is produced, and to combat this free radical, this GSH is shunted there. So this GSH is not able to function as a cofactor for glutathione peroxidase 4. So the action of lipid peroxide on the cell membrane is going to increasing the damage to the cell membrane. You understood? So whenever this Fenton's reaction is excess, most of the reduced glutathione is going to be shunted out to combat the free radical produced there. So what will happen? This glutathione peroxidase is not having enough amount of reduced glutathione to act as a cofactor to prevent lipid peroxide action. So the final net reaction, whenever there is increased Fenton's reaction going on, there will be increased damage of the cell membrane. So which is the marker of ferroptosis if they ask? It is accumulation of lipid peroxide. Okay, so this is the marker of ferroptosis. This is another question. So one question is, which is the master molecule, that is glutathione peroxidase 4, which is the marker? It is lipid peroxide. Fine. Okay, so this is about the basic what is happening in the cell and how ferroptosis is occurring. So when there is increased damage to the cell membrane, phosphatidyl flipping occurs. Okay, once that phosphatidyl flipping occurs from the cell membrane, it will give an eat me signal. Okay, so once this eat me signal is there, the cell will undergo apoptosis. Okay, but here the morphology will be different. I'll tell you how the morphology is going to be different. The morphology will be different from the regular apoptosis. Fine. This much you all have understood. So here in Robbins they have given a word. Okay, so what is in morphology? What they have marked out more is the mitochondrial morphology. In morphology, they have marked out maximum about the mitochondrial morphology. So we will see what are the differences. So now you people already know about apoptosis. Okay, you know there is something called pyroptosis. You know there is something called necroptosis, and there is something called newly introduced ferroptosis, isn't it? Isn't it? So this biochemically, how is it going to be different? Okay, biochemically, you all know this and this is activated by caspases. Okay, this is activated by caspases and this is activated by inflammasome. Okay, this is activated by inflammasome. Fine. Now, ferroptosis is not going to be activated by caspases or inflammasome. What is the master molecule there? Glutathione peroxidase 4. So this is one question, the master molecule. Okay. Now, when coming to morphology, in apoptosis, there will be cell shrinkage. There will be cell shrinkage. Okay. In pyroptosis and necroptosis, there is no marked shrinkage. You know that there will be some amount of cell swelling, isn't it? In ferroptosis also you will similarly see that. You will see that there is some amount of cell swelling. Fine. But what is more important in ferroptosis is what happens to the mitochondria. What happens to the mitochondria? Okay. So the mitochondrial outer membrane ruptures. Outer membrane ruptures. First point. Okay. The inner membrane is intact and thicker. Thicker and intact inner membrane. Okay. And there is reduced or absent cistern. There is reduced or absent cisternae of the mitochondrial inner membranes. Okay. So these are the morphological features we see. Why mitochondria is affected so much in ferroptosis? Because this is the hub. This mitochondria is the hub for iron metabolism and homeostasis. And next thing, other point is reactive oxygen species are also handled maximum in mitochondria. That is why there is lot of mitochondrial changes in ferroptosis. Okay, so now then what is so important about ferroptosis? One thing we have to understand, by understanding all this mechanism, one thing we can understand that if we reduce the amount of ferrous ions, automatically the ferroptosis mechanism will be reduced. This is theoretically we know. Physiologically, still we don't know much about this because this concept arrived only in 2012. So we don't know much about the physiological part of it. Okay, what impact is going to happen in physiology. That is in, say for example, in apoptosis, we speak about embryogenesis. So those concepts we don't know, but its role is proved in neurodegenerative disorders. Neurodegenerative disorders. This can be a question. In all of the following, ferroptosis can play a role, except that could be a type of question. Okay, so neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Huntington's, okay. And then in serious, when coming to cardiovascular system, MI and reperfusion injury, okay, ischemia reperfusion injury. And then coming to brain, stroke, CNS stroke, acute kidney injury. So all these cases, it can play a role. But what is more important for us is they're trying it out as a novel therapy for cancer treatment. They're trying it out as a novel therapy for cancer treatment. This can be a question. And in fact, they are postulating as when we give this anti-tumor radiation, no? When we give anti-tumor radiation, okay, it is postulated that microparticles which are produced from the cell, from the irradiated cell, induce ferroptosis of that particular cancer cell. Anti-tumor radiation, okay, it will, when given, the microparticles which are produced from that cancer cell, okay, will initiate ferroptosis leading to death of that cancer cell. Okay, so these concepts are well given in a journal called, see, it is not only this, they have postulated that ferroptosis will affect most of the organ system. It is well given in a journal called Cell Death and Disease. Okay, in that the article name is Ferroptosis Past, Present and Future. If you all want, you can refer to that because it's nice. Okay, it is well elaborated and given well. So for your exam point of view, you have to know which is the master molecule, glutathione peroxidase, GPX4. You have to know which is the biochemical marker. Okay, when it comes to the biochemical marker, it is lipid peroxide. Okay, fine. The master molecule is increased lipid peroxide. Okay, this is the marker. And master molecule is glutathione peroxidase 4. Fine. Novel therapy in cancer, you have to remember. And morphology of the mitochondria, you have to remember. Hope you have understood this concept well. Okay, this is the paragraph which is given. See, it is linked to cell death in various human pathology, including cancer, neurodegenerative disorders, and stroke. Fine. The overall effect is loss of plasma membrane permeability. That is how it resembles necrosis. Okay, this can also be a question. Okay. It can be prevented by reducing the iron levels. This can be a question. Fine. It is caused due to unchecked membrane lipid peroxidation. This can be a question. Fine. And mitochondria cristae are ruptured or lost and are reduced and ruptured outer mitochondrial membrane. So around 6 to 7 questions which we can expect. Okay, fine. So we'll move on to the next topic. There's another terminology called efferocytosis, which is given in Robbins. This is the paragraph from Robbins, 10th edition, efferocytosis. Okay, this is the process of apoptotic cell phagocytosis. So phagocytosis, if the phagocytes are phagocytosing apoptotic cells, it is called efferocytosis. Okay, so what is the speciality of this? It is so efficient that dead cells disappear often within minutes and without leaving a trace. But what is the importance of this sentence? Why is Robbins putting that sentence? See, rapid clearance of the dead cells before even they lose the plasma membrane integrity, is very important to keep a check on inflammation, because apoptosis means there should not be any inflammation, isn't it? So to keep a check on that inflammation, before inflammation occurs, they have to rapidly, before the plasma membrane degenerates, they have to rapidly remove all the cells. Okay, so that is why it has to be so efficient. That is why it is very important also. Phagocytosis should occur before, this efferocytosis should occur before even the membrane integrity is lost. Fine. Okay. Then next. One more point you have to know in this is, it is immunologically silent. This term they can use. That is why I am putting it here. It was given in a journal. Immunologically silent. It is immunologically silent. So this efferocytosis is done by which cells? They can include professional phagocytes or non-professional. Professional include macrophages and dendritic cells. Non-professional epithelial cells and fibroblast. Okay. But one more thing, how are these cells going to, once the cell is undergoing apoptosis, how are these cells going to tell these phagocytes that we are ready for phagocytosis? Here, actually, there is flipping up of phosphatidyl serine, okay, and flipping up of the plasma membrane will expose phosphatidyl serine and calreticulin. Question. This can come as question. Okay, so these are the ligands for efferocytes. These are the ligands for efferocytes. What are the ligands? Phosphatidyl serine and calreticulin. Okay, now you can ask me, are these not present in the plasma membrane of a normal cell? They are present. They are present on the inner surface. Okay, they are flipped across and they are exposed, which attract these efferocytes only after apoptosis. Healthy cells actually contain CD47. This is sometimes called don't eat me signal. It contains CD47. This CD47 molecule will bind to a signal regulatory protein 1 alpha on the efferocytes, and it will inhibit efferocytosis or phagocytosis of the normal cell. Okay. So this is how normal cell is not phagocytized, because of the presence of CD47. That is a question. Don't eat me signal, that is. Fine. And when efferocytosis occurs, this will prevent inflammation. This will reduce inflammation, isn't it? This will reduce inflammation. I told you how it is going to reduce inflammation. It is very efficient. It is very quick. Even before the plasma membrane integrity is lost, it comes and phagocytizes. That is one point. Okay. Another point how it is going to prevent inflammation is, it will reduce the pro-inflammatory cytokines. It will reduce the pro-inflammatory cytokines, okay, in the macrophages. So that is how it is going to reduce inflammation. Once it reduces inflammation, one more thing it can do is, it will promote growth. It will promote growth. That is, healing will occur. Fine. When this efferocytosis is defective, this can be a potential question. When this efferocytosis is defective, what can happen is, it can slow down, it can retard. So what will happen? The plasma membrane integrity is lost. So what will happen? It stimulates or it initiates inflammation. Okay, that can indirectly lead to autoimmune disorders, including SLE, rheumatoid arthritis. So when efferocytosis is not very efficient, when it is defective, it can lead to autoimmune disorders. This is a question. I mean, these are all potential questions. So what is efferocytosis? You have to know. Potential question. Don't eat me signal, potential question. Okay. And then why there is no inflammation? You have to know. And then when it is defective, it can lead to autoimmune disorders. Fine. So after efferocytosis, we will see another topic which is given in Robbins. Something called frustrated phagocytosis is mentioned. And nowadays, I don't know, from 2-3 years, many are very much interested in this. So I thought even the examiners might be interested. And it is given for the first time in Robbins. So I thought it is a potential question. So I put it up here. Okay. What is frustrated phagocytosis? You all know the phagocytosis normally will occur, isn't it? So what is that function of the phagocytosis? The phagocytic cell will ingest the material, it will degrade the material, isn't it? And whenever this thing is happening, whenever this phagocytosis is happening, it is a controlled mechanism. Controlled secretion of granule contents is the normal response of activated leukocytes. So this is normally when it is ready to ingest a material, there is controlled secretion because it is happy. It is just ingesting, its work is done. It is very satisfied that, yes, I have done my work well. But if phagocytes, okay, encounter materials that cannot be easily ingested, such as very important, immune complexes which are deposited on a larger surface area like glomerular basement membrane, or it can be urate crystals, or see here it is given, or it can be asbestos crystals, asbestos fibers, long fibers. That time the leukocyte, the activated leukocyte, whatever it does now, it is not able to phagocytize and degrade those material. So in that frustration, it is going to pour out more and more cytokines into the extracellular milieu. Okay, into the extracellular environment, it is going to release lots of lysosomal enzymes than it had to. That control is lost because it is frustrated. It just wants to get rid of it. Somehow it wants to get rid of it. Okay. So that time, along with the effort of digesting that substance, it will also be harming the surrounding cells, surrounding normal cells. That is called frustrated phagocytosis. Okay, that is called frustrated phagocytosis. What are the cells which can undergo frustrated phagocytosis? Macrophages, neutrophils, and dendritic cells. Fine. So this is about frustrated phagocytosis. So this is the third important word which I found is a potential question. Then the fourth one is, see, you all know something in inflammation chapter. Okay, this is, so you all know there is something called acute phase proteins, isn't it? Acute phase reactant proteins. So these are nothing but plasma proteins. Okay, and where are they synthesized from? They are synthesized from the liver. Okay, how it is going to synthesize? When there is inflammation, there are few cytokines like interleukin 6, interleukin 1, tumor necrosis factor, which will induce secretion of these acute phase reactant proteins. Isn't it? So what are the most important proteins? We all know there are three things which are very, very important. Okay. Serum amyloid A protein, first thing. C-reactive protein and fibrinogen. Serum amyloid A protein, C-reactive protein and fibrinogen. These three are primary acute phase reactants. There are many acute phase reactants, numerous, but primary acute phase reactants are these three. Okay, so interleukin 6 will induce production of SAA protein. Interleukin 1 and tumor necrosis factor will induce production of C-reactive protein and fibrinogen. Fine. So whenever there is acute inflammation, these acute phase reactant proteins are synthesized. Okay, and once the inflammation is suppressed, these fall down, isn't it? This is okay. This is normally which is occurring. But if they are produced in a prolonged production, okay, say for example in chronic inflammation, in case of chronic inflammation, they are produced persistently for a longer period. That time what will happen is this SAA is there, no? This SAA, this will cause secondary amyloidosis. This will cause secondary amyloidosis. C-reactive protein can increase the risk of MI in a patient who previously have coronary artery disease. Okay, it can increase the risk of MI in a patient who has coronary artery disease. Okay, and one more thing is fibrinogen, we know, fibrinogen, we know, isn't it? Fibrinogen, what it does? It increases the Rayleigh formation. So that is how ESR is going to be elevated in inflammation. Okay, that is why we check ESR, isn't it? So fibrinogen will increase ESR Rayleigh formation, and hence the ESR is increased. Okay, so that is the function. So C-reactive protein can increase the chance of MI. SAA will increase the chance of secondary amyloidosis. Along with these three primary acute phase reactant proteins, this edition of Robbins is also mentioned two important things called hepcidin. This was mentioned previously. Hepcidin was mentioned. Okay, another thing called thrombopoietin. We knew this concept. Okay, in journals it was given, we knew this concept, but it is now mentioned in Robbins, so it becomes a potential question. So what this hepcidin, the primary function, when there is acute inflammation, hepcidin synthesis is increased, and this hepcidin will prevent ion uptake by the erythrocyte precursors. It will prevent ion uptake by erythrocyte precursors. That is how on prolonged effect it is going to cause anemia of chronic disease. It is usually NNA. This is a old question. Okay. But hepcidin, how it causes anemia? What is going to cause anemia of chronic disease? Hepcidin, which is going to prevent ion uptake. Right? What is thrombopoietin going to do? Thrombopoietin becomes very important in acute inflammation. So what is this thrombopoietin going to do? In case of acute inflammation, the thrombopoietin is going to be upregulated. That is, more amount of thrombopoietin is synthesized by the liver. Again, both are synthesized, released from the liver. So the thrombopoietin is going to be increased. It is going to be increased. The secretion of thrombopoietin is going to be increased. This will stimulate increased platelet production, leading to thrombocytosis. That is why in acute inflammation we see thrombocytosis. Okay. So in chronic inflammation, hepcidin will cause NNA. In acute inflammation, thrombopoietin is going to cause thrombocytosis, and thrombopoietin is included into acute phase reactant in 10th edition of Robbins. So quickly recapitulating whatever was taught today. See, it is given in this 10th edition. This is a snap from Robbins. Okay, the major growth factor for megakaryocytes, thrombopoietin being the major growth factor for megakaryocytes, is upregulated in systemic inflammation and may be associated with elevated platelet count, thrombocytosis, in case of acute inflammation. Fine. Hepcidin is going to be the cause for anemia of chronic inflammation. So quickly recapitulating whatever we read till now. So ferroptosis, you have to know there is, what is the marker? Marker of ferroptosis is increased lipid peroxide. Okay. What is the master molecule? Glutathione peroxidase 4. It will be like necrosis, but it is a programmed cell death. Okay. How can we control it? By preventing or reducing iron levels. Where is it going to be very important? Novel therapy of cancer. Okay. In neurodegenerative disorders, in ischemia reperfusion injury, acute kidney disease, and stroke, CNS stroke. And here you have to remember the morphological changes in mitochondria. There is reduced or absent cisternae in the mitochondria. The outer mitochondrial membrane is lost. The inner mitochondrial membrane becomes thicker. Fine. This is one thing you have to remember in ferroptosis. Efferocytosis, it is immunologically silent. Okay, it is nothing but phagocytosis of the apoptotic cells. It is very efficient. That is how it is going to prevent inflammation from occurring. It is going to phagocytize the apoptotic cells even before the plasma membrane disintegrates. Fine. Next one is frustrated phagocytosis. Whenever the phagocyte is not able to ingest or digest some material, okay, it was supposed to, that time it will cause excessive release of, it loses the control over the secretion of cytokines. So there will be excess amount of cytokines into the external milieu, leading to the further consequent damages. Okay, that is frustrated phagocytosis. Among acute phase reactants, hepcidin causes chronic anemia of chronic inflammation. Thrombopoietin is the cause for thrombocytosis in systemic inflammation, acute systemic inflammation. Fine. Thank you.
Best training, peaceful environment, PG medical entrance exam preparation were my expectations. I got them at Speed Medical Village in Kanchipuram. Today, I am a PG topper.
Speed Medical Village, a unique eco-friendly campus dedicated for PG preparation. Speed Medical Institute, a complete solution for medical education.